My name is Christian Thomas, and I will be talking about why Pluto should still be considered a planet. Pluto was discovered in 1930. Pluto was long considered as the ninth planet of the solar system. Pluto was later reclassified as a dwarf planet after the discovery of other similar interesting worlds deeper in the Kuiper Belt. Pluto is a mysterious and complex world with mountains, valleys, plains, craters, and maybe even glaciers, according to in-depth Pluto NASA Solar System Exploration. Is Pluto a planet or a dwarf planet? Pluto was first a planet and then it got demoted to a dwarf planet. So should Pluto be promoted back to a planet or stay a dwarf planet? Today I will be talking about the difference between a planet and a dwarf planet and the reason Pluto became a dwarf planet and why it should still be considered a planet. What is a planet? According to Overview Planets NASA Solar System Exploration, the key difference between a planet and a dwarf planet is the kinds of objects that share its orbit around the sun. Pluto, for example, has not cleared its orbit of similar objects, while Earth or Jupiter have no similarly sized worlds on the same path around the sun. According to What is a Dwarf Planet? Astronomy.com, Pluto was considered a planet until 2006 after a huge debate. The International Astronomical Union came up with the new definition of a planet. This was also the first time the term dwarf planet was used. The IAU's new definition of a planet is a planet has to orbit the sun directly. It also must be large enough to have a round or spherical physical shape. And the planet must also clear its neighborhood. That means aside from any moons it might have, the planet can't share its orbit with other objects of comparable size. Our solar system consists of 8 planets and 5 dwarf planets in the Kuiper Belt. Pluto has an atmosphere, stark surface features, and at least 5 moons. Pluto is the most complex dwarf planet known and one of the most surprising planets in our solar system. Pluto is around 1,400 miles wide. Pluto is so small it's at least half the size of the United States. Pluto is about 3.6 billion miles away from the sun. Pluto has a thin atmosphere composed of mostly methane, nitrogen, and carbon monoxide. Pluto's average temperature is negative 387 degrees Fahrenheit or negative 232 degrees Celsius, making Pluto too cold to sustain life. Pluto is orbited by 5 known moons, the largest of which is Charon. Charon is about half the size of Pluto itself, making it the largest satellite relative to the planet it orbits in our solar system. Pluto and Charon often are referred to as a double planet, dwarf planets. The International Astronomical Union, which sets the definition for planetary science, have defined dwarf planets as a celestial body that orbits the sun, has enough mass to assume a nearly round shape, and has not cleared the neighborhood around its orbit and is not a moon. According to dwarf planets orbit the sun, sonalsart.com. But Pluto isn't a moon, and Pluto is also spherical. Dwarf planets are much smaller than normal planets. The biggest dwarf planets are Pluto and Ceres, and they both have less than 1/5 of the Earth's diameter. There are 3 things needed for life: liquid water, an energy source, and organic molecules. The molecules must contain carbon. Below Pluto's surface, more than 100 miles or 161 kilometers, an enormous ocean of liquid water may exist. This might be true for other worlds in the Kuiper Belt also. Ceres also has subsurface water remnants of what could have been an ancient global ocean. Organic molecules in abundance everywhere in our solar system have been found on Ceres and Pluto. Dwarf planets are too cold. Pluto's average temperature is negative 375 degrees Fahrenheit or negative 232 degrees Celsius, making Pluto too cold to sustain life. The one missing ingredient for all of the dwarf planets in the Kuiper Belt is a source of energy. Sunlight won't work as a source of energy for the dwarf planets within the Kuiper Belt. The dwarf planets are simply just too far away. For sunlight to reach the dwarf planets, in the Kuiper Belt, the light must travel more than 2.7 billion miles, or 4.4 billion kilometers, but by the time the sunshine arrives to the planets, it will be too weak to heat any of the. By the time the sunshine arrives at these distant worlds, it's too weak to significantly heat any of them, and all the dwarf planets are too small to hold the inner heat that remains from the solar system's formation, according to What is a Dwarf Planet? Astronomy.com. Is Pluto a dwarf planet? Is Pluto a planet or a dwarf planet? Stern thinks that the IAU's definition of a planet is poorly worded. The IAU's definition was created by non-experts, astronomers who study stars, galaxies, and black holes. He said they botched it. According to Yes, Pluto is a planet, says NASA scientists at the site of its discovery 91 years ago. This week, Forbes.com. Stern is a lead scientist at NASA. There are 3 requirements to be considered a planet. It orbits the sun, it has enough mass and therefore gravity to be round, and it has cleared the neighborhood around its orbit. Pluto was reclassified as a dwarf planet because it is influenced by Neptune's gravity, and it also shares its orbit with other objects in the Kuiper Belt, and so it hasn't cleared its neighborhood. Stern also made the point that the solar system is littered with asteroids to the extent that no celestial body has cleared the neighborhood around its orbit. And since Neptune's gravity influenced its neighboring planet Pluto, and Pluto shares its orbit with frozen gases and objects in the Kuiper Belt, that meant Pluto was out of planet status. So, is Pluto a planet? Yes or no? Yes, Pluto is a planet. Pluto orbits the sun. Pluto has enough mass and therefore gravity to be round. Pluto also has insufficient mass to undergo nuclear fission in its interior. So yes, Pluto is still a planet.